Hello and welcome to today's European SharePoint Office 365 and Azure Community webinar. My name is Shane and I'm delighted to be joined by Stephen Rose, Microsoft United States, who will be talking to you today about the new normal and Microsoft Teams. Remember to join in the conversation about today's webinar on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is ESPC20. Don't forget to check out the Resource Center. This is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. Simply visit sharepointeurope.com and click the content link at the top. Welcome to Teams Week, where we have a variety of blogs, ebooks, and webinars, all free and all online. Check out sharepointeurope.com for full details. After the webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. Type any questions you have in the questions window. Questions will be selected and answered at the end and during the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Center, where you'll be notified by email when it is available. And now I'm going to pass you over to our webinar presenter, Stephen Rose. Hello, Stephen.
Good morning or good evening for you. How are you?
I'm great. You should see the pop-up letting you take
You guys should be able to see my screen now. Awesome. And please ask questions during. I'm here for all of you, so happy to ask questions as we move through. We certainly don't need to wait to the end. My name is Stephen Rose. It's great to be back at the European SharePoint Convention. I did it in Dublin a few years ago when I was on the OneDrive team. I have since moved over to the Microsoft Teams group for the modern work. So if you have any questions, want to reach out to me afterwards, you can find me on Twitter at Stephen L. Rose, and also make sure to check out our Teams webcast series at aka.ms/teams-remote work, where we sit down every week and do interviews. As a matter of fact, my last interview a few weeks ago was Jeff Teeper, so it's great. And we even get to ask him about all the guitars on his wall, as well as stuff he's done at Microsoft and future SharePoint and Teams and great stuff like that. So make sure to check it out. All right, let's jump in. We've seen 2 years of digital transformation in 2 months with COVID. We've seen customers who said, yeah, we're going to spend the next year and a half and we're going to move to Teams Online, or we're going to move to SharePoint Online or Exchange Online, and we're going to move to the cloud and do that. And that all changed last February, March. Within a matter of weeks, people had moved everything to online, and we're now starting to use Teams and do these things, but it's a Herculean task. So I want to make sure, as a representative from Microsoft, that we take a moment and thank you, because all of you in some way or another were involved in this, and having to make that switch, to be involved in it, to drive others to say, hey, turn on your camera for a better experience, or hey, the X drive is now in SharePoint and that's where you're going to find this content, and here's the value you get from doing that. So really, thank you to all of you for the hard work that you've done. We've seen, excuse me, over the past 9 months, some amazing organizations run on Teams decide to move over, from Office Depot, who had 11,000 employees who decided we need to stay home and we need to connect, to St. Luke's, who is leading a lot of our COVID-19 research, or companies like Honeywell. There's some great stories, and we encourage you to go out to our customer site and take a look at some of these, as they may help give you ideas on how you can innovate and how you can further your own transition from a physical company to a hybrid or even virtual. Work environments are changing. What's interesting is we've done a variety of surveys, as many companies have, and 82% of managers said they expect to have a more flexible work from home post-pandemic policy, meaning we see ourselves being able to work from home 3 days a week or 4 days a week or 2 weeks out of the month, or job sharing. A lot of changes are going to happen once we're able to start going back and be together in person in a hybrid environment. 1 hour is the average increase in workday. That means we're doing 5 days worth of work in many cases in 4 days. What's interesting is, within our organization, the cloud organization at Microsoft, we have no meeting Friday afternoons, meaning from noon on, that's your time to get caught up on email, to go do personal errands, whatever you want, because they realized we were getting a full week's worth of meetings and more things done. And that's the biggest thing that we've heard from customers is it's really hard to separate personal time from work time, because with apps like Teams or Slack or any one of those, you're always available and you're always there. And it's really important to remember that hour that you had in between a meeting, or 30 minutes, or that time to walk down to go grab a quick bite or take a break, isn't really there as people are moving from meeting to meeting to meeting. Tech must evolve to make the virtual collaboration more human. 60% of people feel less connected. Well, what does that mean? That means that people feel more empathetic towards their colleagues. They feel less connected, where it's so important that we take things that we did physically and how do we translate to do those virtually. And it's important that you have these conversations before you start to roll out Teams on how are we going to do this and how are we going to bring things together. And we all know Microsoft Teams, it's great for coming together with meetings and calling and chat and collaborations, and now apps and workflow and Power Platform that allows you to work right inside of the tool. And all of that is great, and we love that. And we've seen some amazing numbers. 115 million daily active users and over 1,800 organizations, more than 10,000 users, and 5 billion meeting minutes in a single day. It's absolutely tremendous to see how people have embraced the product. But the question I get asked most is, where do we start? Either we're about to roll out Teams, or we have, or we're going to go back and retake a look at how we did it to find ways that we can better get people engaged. I think one of my favorite stories was I chatted with a customer, said, yep, we rolled out Teams. Awesome, how's it going? He says, well, we have a problem. And I said, well, what is that? He goes, they're only using chat. Excuse me? He goes, yeah, our users are only using chat. They're not using any of the other functionality. I said, okay, did you train them before rollout? No, but we put together a portal that they could go to learn how to use it. Did you explain to them why you were moving to Teams and what it was going to replace? Did you have any champions or stakeholders? And they said, no. And I said, okay, well, that's why. If you put a tool in front of people and say, hi, this is better, they'll go, yeah, no, it's not. I like the way that I'm doing things, because we all hate change. It's just in our DNA. So let's kind of walk through, whether you've already deployed Teams, whether you are looking to go back and retake a look at it, or if you're a consultant and you work with other companies, let's kind of walk through these phases, because I think it will definitely help. The way I like to look at it is 45 days out, you should be doing an envisioning phase, and I'll go through each one of these. 30 days out, you're talking about end user planning and how you're going to make that work. 15 days out, you are looking at deployment prep and how we look at that. And then you're going to deploy, and then there are stages and things you want to do afterwards to adjust. So envision, OneDrive, SharePoint, Office 365 groups. How are you going to do this? How are you going to manage it? We've said many times, we recommend taking the user's desktop and C drive and moving those to OneDrive using known folder move, which is great, seamless to end users, now gives them access to every device, to their data from any device securely. And you have to remember, we have 4 generations of workers that are working now, from baby boomers who still remember a 486 with a turbo button in the front, to someone like, who is just coming into the workforce, who's in their, early 20s, who doesn't see a difference between this and a laptop. They just see it as a way to get to their stuff in the cloud. There's no difference. It's how I get to my stuff. And they were born in the cloud, working in the cloud. They see email as a way to tell me that there's donuts in the break room, not that there is important work that needs to be done, because that happens in chat. So as you're going through this, think about not only what are you doing, but how it affects different types of users and what their expectations are. Where will the data be stored? Compliance, e-discovery, auditing, reporting needs are all incredibly important as you take a look at this. And as you go through, what is our retention going to be? How are we meeting GDPR standards? What does our reporting need to be? Who can create and manage a team? This is really important to make sure that you don't get team sprawl, but on the other end, if you limit it too much, you're going to get people who won't use the tool because they don't have a way to be able to create what they need. And again, we'll talk about how education can really help that, but it's important to understand that, and that you have two people that manage a team, because people leave the company, people change roles, and then all of a sudden you want to make changes to a team and the person who created it is no longer with the company. It makes it very, very difficult to do that. Will you allow guests and external users into Teams? This is a really important conversation. If so, how are you going to do this? Will it be done with Azure B2B? Will you be using Intune or MobileIron or AirWatch as a way to manage this? What are the policies? Are you just going to bring Yammer into Teams and allow people to chat but not file share? Are you going to limit how long they're in? It's incredibly important to think through this phase, because I've seen a lot of customers who say, we really don't know how to manage this, or we haven't really thought about it. We're not allowing people in. And I've been at Microsoft for over 12 years, and I spent 15 years before that as an IT pro consultant, as an MVP, as a MCT, MCSE, etc. And the one thing that I've learned in all my years on managing help desks and managing IT is if you don't allow users to do something, they're going to find a way to do it, and it's a way that's not going to be great for you. Meaning, if you don't allow them to share, well, then they're just going to open up a Box or a Dropbox account or a Gmail account and start to share from there. If you don't allow them to do this, they're going to find another way to do it. So that's the problem, is you will run into ways for people will find ways to do things around you, and it will not be a compliant way. So it's important you think ahead of time, how can we do this best and be able to get that benefit of being able to do it securely? What authentication method will you use? Are you going to, turn on MFA and use MFA as a way to do this? And third-party apps. We have over 700 apps that now work inside of Teams. So is there a way to bring it inside of Teams? Can you use Power Platform to help? How will it integrate in with the daily flow of users? And network optimization, or will you use split tunneling as a way to do this? Remember that when people are at home, like myself, both my daughter is currently downstairs in a class at school, and my wife is getting ready to log on shortly and do meetings. That's a lot of bandwidth on our end. And how are you going to manage that and ensure that people have a good connection so that they look and sound their best so that they can indeed connect? 30 days out, you want to train your help desk. We have a ton of great help desk training. If you go out to adoption.microsoft.com, you'll see links to all of our different programs that we have, many which provide free training or online training so that folks can get up to speed to answer those key questions. Why are we changing? It's so important that we let people know why we're changing. We are going to be doing this, and this is why, and this is what we expect, and that we get buy-in and participation from leadership. If managers aren't turning on their cameras, how will anybody else do it? And we've learned that when you turn on your camera, you have a better connection with people, that people are engaged, that they will talk, that they will listen, and that we will see that it is a more personal connection and people will get more out of the meetings. How are we going to support our users, and what's in place to do that? How are we going to train them? There's some great free training portals that you can set up inside of SharePoint that will allow you to walk people through the training, get certified for it, see what they know, and be able to ensure that they have a place to go to review how to do things. Champions program, where you can pick a person from each of your different areas, sales, marketing, HR, who become the experts in the program, who people go to when they have questions, because they can not only answer the questions on the product, no matter what it is, but they also understand that person's job and can show them how it's now being done as part of this new normal. Planned out phase for previous technology. Hi, it is January 1st, July 1st, this is going away. And I do encourage you to check out Windows Virtual Desktop. If you have an M365, E3, or E5 license, you have Windows Virtual Desktop, WVD, included as a one-to-one to your Windows licenses, which means that you could put an app that people are using today, whether it's Skype for Business or a chat app or Slack or anything, and you could virtualize it, put it on the desktop, which means on July 1st, you pull it away and it goes away. Or if it's a new app that you're introducing, they can continue to do things the old way, but there it is virtualized on the desktop. Or give everybody a one-to-one desktop that includes that. So there's some great ways to take a look at that. And if you have questions on WVD, I'm also happy to answer those as well. Reporting on usage, we have some great new free tools that allow you to take a look and see how people are working. Now, there was a great article the other day on workplace analytics and some of the new tools. And it said, well, is this Big Brother watching us? And the answer is no. It's not, because it's not giving anybody analytics about you. It's giving analytics about your org. So it may be the sales org or Deborah Jones's organization. It shows people en masse that are broken down by the OUs or security groups that you've set up. So we're not able to see how many hours last week you were online or how many meetings you're doing or if you multitask in a meeting, but we can take a look at organizations. And that's so important because that's what led our managers to say, we're going to give people Friday afternoons off and let them catch up on things because we're taking a look at working and they're starting earlier and ending later and not having as much time in between. We're seeing that managers aren't doing enough meetings with their people to see how things are going. It's so important that you look at these usage tools as a way to assess people's mental health as well as their work health and to ensure that there's a good balance. One of my favorite things was a manager coming to me saying, we put workplace analytics in and we took a look and we realized that we had 2 or 3 managers that were emailing people at 6, 7, and 8 o'clock at night. And even though they said, I don't expect an answer till the morning, the fact that they were doing it, we saw people in their organization working 2 to 3 hours each night after hours. So we've said to them, unless it is an emergency, wait till the next morning. And we saw those numbers drop dramatically. Being able to tell that cause and effect is huge and can help the organization. So I encourage you to check it out. 15 days, I recommend that you also don't roll out everything at once, that you roll things out in phases. So phase 1 is Teams chat and Teams channels and bringing out OneDrive and SharePoint. Phase 2 then is scaling up Teams for video conferencing and implementing a Teams room system and maybe introducing Teams calling at that point. And then phase 3 is then across the whole org, Power Platform and third-party apps and reporting and troubleshooting. But if you do that in phases rather than the whole thing at once, it's certainly going to be a lot easier for you. And for deploying, if you start with Windows 1902 and Office 1902, Teams is part of the Microsoft 365 app install. So make sure to check out 1902 as a great starting place for that. Deploy your group policy using the MSI package tool. And I highly recommend using the Office Deployment Toolkit, the ODT. It is a command line version that you can use to download and deploy click to run versions of Office apps. And it's so incredibly easy to use. So I wanted to show you, here's a script that I wrote that sets up Office. I did configuration, add channel, perpetual VL 2019 Office Client Edition, 64-bit, and the channel is semi-annual. And I'll show you all the different variables that you can use. The orange, where you can pick which version. You can put in all your language packs. I'm adding the Teams Pro Retail version with EN/US language. Remove the MSI once it's done is true. I'm automatically accepting the EULA and I'm automatically activating. It's all you need to do. And you can pick the client edition. You can pick the different channel, whether it's beta or current preview or monthly enterprise. I encourage you to check those out. We've also now taken what was our TAP program, our early access program, and we've now made that public. There is now a Teams Insider program where you can get the pre-release version features of Teams on your machine earlier than you would get it as even part of beta channel or first release. So we encourage you to check that out, not as a deployment option, but as a personal option for you to be able to see that functionality, see how it's going to affect your users and bring that to bear. Plus, you can add any one of these apps over here on the right, plus others by simply adding the additional ID. It's that simple. Locking it down. This is the biggest area where we found that folks have not gone back to take a look at Teams and how they want to lock it down and what they want to do after deploying. And it's so important we do. But so I'm going to do a Teams securing demo in a few minutes. I want to do 2 more slides and then, or 3 more slides, and then I want to make sure I answer any questions. And then I'm happy to walk through the admin portal and show you how to do things in there. So I'll come back to that in a moment. At 2 weeks and 30 days after, check out the Microsoft Productivity Score. Take a look, see how your folks are working, and if there are adjustments that you want to make. Take a look at the Microsoft 365 usage analytics, which you can, of course, bring into Power BI. And we all get My Analytics for free, but if you've paid for Workplace Analytics, this is an amazing tool that I encourage you to check out that will give you phenomenal insight into your organization, who you're collaborating with internally, externally, how many hours in Teams, calls, average length, meeting length, etc. We also found out that our meeting lengths were going long. So we got an edict from management that said every 60-minute meeting is now 40 and every 30-minute meeting is now 20 to give people time to use the restroom, get coffee in between meetings, because they found that they were doing 4 or 5 hours in a row without a break, which just was not good. And our roadmap, breakout rooms are hitting folks now, which is great. We'll also see in the next few weeks the new together mode scenes, dynamic view also, where you can pick the different view to best choose how you want to see all the participants, and custom layouts. All of these are going to be hitting in our fourth quarter this year. Live reactions and polls, you'll see, and again, this is assuming that you're either in Insider or you're in first release. If you are on current or enterprise, it may take a little bit longer for these features to hit you. And of course, large meetings, interactive meetings with up to 1,000 attendees that you can scale up to 20,000 in a view only. All of these features, which we announced at Ignite, will be hitting before the end of the year. So what I want to do now is I do want to bring up my demo environment, but I do want to stop to see if anybody has any questions before I jump into this, or a specific thing that you would like to see me demonstrate or walk through or explain inside the admin console, because I do want to make sure that you're getting out of this what you need to and hopefully getting questions answered.
No questions so far, Stephen. So
all right. You guys are a quiet audience, or you're also at the end of your day, and I realize that, where I'm just at the beginning. I think you can probably see behind me, or you will be able to in a few minutes, that it's finally getting light out. So let's walk through this. For those who have not spent a ton of time inside the dashboard, we of course can take a look at how many users, how many internal users, and how many guests by simply clicking here. By clicking on any one of these groups, we can dig in a little bit deeper and see who's a member. We can add, we can remove, we can see which channels those folks are a member of, and which channels they have, as well as what our settings are, like the allow the editing of sent messages, etc. So we can see what the policies are. As we take a look at devices, this is where we manage the many devices inside of our offices. Locations, you can put in, for example, what reporting labels are, emergency addresses, networks and locations, things along that line that are important to you. We can see all of our audio conferencing centers and the phone numbers, things like that assigned to them, so we can see if audio conferencing is on, if they have a phone system, calling plan. For meetings, we can put in our conference bridges. For meeting policies, this is really great. I'm a huge fan of this feature, where we can go in and we can say, allow Meet Now in channels, or allow the Outlook add-in, which gets turned on. For analytics, I got a question, so I'm going to stop for a moment. For analytics, is there a way to get usage data for flexible period, not limited to the 7, 30, 90, 180 days? Yes, in Workplace Analytics, there is. You can actually pick a specific time. You can go from a single day to several weeks, etc. You cannot go past 90 days, though. It doesn't hold it beyond that. So you can get historical usage, but not for more than 3 months. What you can do, though, is you can take the data and you can export it every 90 days, and that would allow you through Power BI to get a more historical view. So hopefully that answers your question. Outlook add-in, allow channel meeting scheduling, whether or not you want to allow people to do video, NDI. This is a newer feature that we found for a lot of folks who are doing webcasts, webinars, PowerPoint sharing, whiteboards if you want to turn that on, allow an external participant to give a request control. So all of those settings are here. Even let anonymous people start a meeting, where that way if you have guests, the meeting doesn't start until you allow them in. What the presenter rights are. Now you can adjust this based on an individual, a group of people, an OU for sales, marketing, etc. So you can create as many of these different meeting policies as you need to based on groups. So I would think about that as you want to do it. Don't create too many because it makes things a little nutty to control. But it is definitely a great way to put that together. And what those individual meeting settings are. For example, what happens when somebody gets an email invitation? Is our company logo in that? Is there a help URL within it? What ports are going to be used? And then, of course, the same for live events, what those settings are like. For messaging, we also have owners can delete messages. If you've got retention policies, you're going to want to turn that off and say, look, we want to see every message that was sent and not allow somebody to delete it. Editing sent messages, read receipts, where you get the little eye if someone has looked at it. If you want to allow Giphies or stickers or not allow, or URL previews, translation, all of that is here. And again, these are great things to sit down with before you deploy the product. And if you're a consultant, discuss with the customer. How do you want to do this? Do you allow people to leave a voice message? Do you want memes to be allowed? Do you want a preview of a URL so if somebody puts in something they found on the web or did, that you're able to see it? As we scroll down a little bit and we take a look at messaging policies, we see the same thing, but with Teams apps, we can also choose out of those 700 apps that plug in, plus the custom ones, of course, that you can bring in, what apps are allowed and which ones are not. And you can control this and the licensing, how many people can access it, who can, and all of that can all be managed right here. And we've shown also this year new ways to be able to update and manage those apps. All your permission policies around those and the setup policies now. This is newer, but really great for setting up and managing first line workers within that. I'm not going to go into voice because there's a whole lot in there that I really don't have depth in, so I'm going to skip that. But I will talk about policy packages. We have, and a lot of folks were surprised to find this out, a whole set of predefined and pre-built policy packages. So for example, if you're pushing this out to healthcare clinical workers, that we have a whole policy here around messaging and meeting that meets the HIPAA compliancy or different compliancies or best practices for those different areas, education, et cetera. So we encourage you to start with these, to use these if you're not really sure what to do, or to start with these and adjust from there. For analytics and reporting, there are usage reports here that we talked about. So we can select a team's usage, for example, and we can select a date range. But this is what that person was asking before, beyond the 7, 30, and 90 days. And that's where you can go into some of the newer tools, which can do that and to manage that. That will make that a lot easier for you. So, we had talked about the Microsoft 365 usage analytics, which is a new feature. I'll show that to you in a few moments, but that you could use that as a much better way to be able to be far more granular. Or if you're looking for something even deeper, the workplace analytics, which is absolutely tremendous. Org-wide settings, here's where we set up external access and guest access and what those policies are going to be. How often Teams upgrades? What are the holidays that your country or company want to observe or take a look at? If they can use Skype for Business to communicate with Teams users or vice versa. And we can quickly add domains using Azure B2B that allow and say these are the domains that are allowed to join and connect up and work with us, so that we can bring that up, choose which domains are allowed or blocked, and what the action is going to be on that domain. So that's one you definitely want to take some time to take a look at, as well as guest access. For team setting, this is where you can integrate email and cloud storage and those sort of things, where we can do things like custom tags, the email integration where they can send emails to a specific channel. We do this, we find it very useful where there's an email that I want to forward to everybody in the group. I can just forward it to the team and it shows up there and everybody can read it and take a look at it. Files, are you using Citrix or Dropbox or Google Drive or Box or Ignite? If you're not using OneDrive, and how you can bring that over. What devices as a secondary form of authentication for meeting access want to be used? Do you want to set a PIN for content? So all of these things are here and definitely well worth taking some time for. There's also the Teams Advisor, which is absolutely tremendous, which I also encourage you to take a look at. That will go through and talk about the different resources and plans that are available to go ahead and set this up. I also now want to show you, let's do this, the Microsoft 365 usage analytics. So simply type that in and you can go to here. Docs will give you all of the information that you need to be able to grab all that. So we had talked about usage and being able to pull that information into Power BI. This shows you how to pull that in and how to go ahead and create those information and be able to bring it together. But the other big piece is the productivity score, which I'll show you. So productivity score shows how work gets done. We can see here how the score is calculated, what is in it, how endpoint analytics works, what the prerequisites are, and how to interpret this, and the different reports and stuff around that. So what's great is within this, we'll go through and show you, how is the score calculated? How do I get to that information? How do I bring that together? So we can take a look at all that and what that means and how that brings that in. So I'm going to go here to the adoption.microsoft.com site, which I talked about earlier. We can take a look here and get the breakdown, the technology, all the various special reports, which tools you're using, and how to deploy that. And this is an amazing tool that you definitely want to check out. I see there's another question, so I'll get to it in just a moment. But it does go through, and for example, for Teams or SharePoint, it will tell you how to get started, how to engage your org, a lot of the things that we talked about, how to do training, how to build your champions, and it's absolutely great in going through and walking you through all those different areas that we talked about. All right, a few questions came up, so let's see what we got. Best practices to deal with external users that are already members of Teams in another organization where you don't want to federate with the other org. I really recommend using Azure Business to Business as a best way to do that. That way you can invite them into just a team, just a group. They're only allowed to work within that group. You can set what those policies are. That way you're not federating with another organization. You can just do that directly with specific users or groups, and it is absolutely the easiest way to do that. I also recommend turning on MFA at some point where you can then say, hey, they get a PIN where they have to come in every time that they want to do that. Also, Yammer works really well. With Yammer, you can allow an unlimited amount of people in. You can set up a Yammer page within your team. Then they're only allowed to chat on the Yammer page. This is great if you're working with a bunch of external people who you want to have conversations with privately, but don't want to make or give access to content within your org, but you want to allow all the people in the team to be able to chat with them. That's a great way to do that because you can set up a Yammer page, they can come in, you can go back and comment, you can share things via the Yammer page, but they don't need to be a member of the team. But those are two of the best ways. And I'm happy if you want to connect with me in, via Twitter, I can share with you a bunch of really great links that will talk about how to go ahead and do that and how to best bring that together. Because we have a bunch of blog posts that we've done on that I think will really help that and will really make that a lot easier to do. Awesome. We still have about 10 minutes left, and I want to see if there's any other questions that I can answer for folks on doing that, or other questions.
No questions so far. Whatever's come through, Stephen, they've been going straight over to you.
Perfect. Yeah. So this site is available at adoption.microsoft.com. It's great because as you get into things like secure your environment, here's where you'll find the productivity score and the 365 usage analytics, sample satisfaction surveys, the workplace insights, all of that is here. That will talk about exactly how to do that, how to bring those things in. And like I said, this is probably one of the most important things because people roll out Teams, but then don't go back to see how are people using it. How is that information coming across? Can we see what folks are doing? And all you have to do is just turn that on and you'll find it in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So we can see here how many people are engaged in shared workspaces, who's sending email, and how many in creating content. How many people are working in a shared workspace more than 3 days a week. And again, this is high level. If you want to go deep, there is workplace analytics, which I am a huge fan of, and then definitely encourage you to check out as you start to do that. But there is some really, really great information there as you start to go through. And also all the training resources are here too. The Microsoft 365 learning pathways are really great for going through with things like on-demand learning and our get started templates. But specifically, the one thing that I want to point out to you, which is relatively new, we announced at Ignite, is our new Teams content on Microsoft Learn, where we've added a whole bunch. When will it be possible to switch tenants easily? There are two sides to that, so I'm going to answer both of those. I'm going to stop showing my screen here for a minute. Well, not just yet. There are two things. Number one is right now you can go in and you can switch tenants, and it should happen fairly quickly, but it's important to understand that as you do that, we are switching all of the security information. So we have to go through, grab the security token from that new organization, set that up on what those policies are, and what everybody is allowed to do. Now, with that said, I can go back, let's say, to my admin console that I was looking at here. And this is an admin console that I'm not signed up for with my Microsoft ID, but yet I'm using a demo ID. So I'm going to show you something that you can do that may make this considerably easier if you're working in multiple tenants at a same time. Inside of Edge, you can go here and you can save the site as an app. And what's great about doing that is once you do that, you can actually pin it down here to your taskbar here at the bottom. And this will enable you to open up that site as a separate application. So we can see here, I have it set up as an app. I can actually pin it to my taskbar here. And now I can switch back and forth between my own Teams app. This is my desktop version of my corporate app here. So there I am in the Microsoft Teams, and here I am looking at the Teams admin console. So you could have 5, 6 different teams in different tenants open simultaneously and have it look and feel exactly like an app. You'll see that there's no address bar up here at the top. And this is one of the easiest ways to do it. So if you're not happy with the amount of time it's taking to switch over, and again, that is something that we're working on, but that is the process of, hey, I'm here, what's my latest token? If any policies changed, what am I allowed to do, not do between that? This is one of the best ways to solve that issue in the meantime, as we continue to make that better. And it's much faster than it was, but it's still not fast enough for many people. And if you need to have multiple teams open, this is absolutely the best way that I've seen to do it. And the way I do it myself is I'm a member of several external teams, and it's the easiest way for me to work in them all simultaneously. It's a great question. Thank you. Any other questions? I know we got 147 people online, so feel free. This is your time to shine and your time to ask that how-to question. All right, we got another one. Let's see. Sorry, I went too far. Regarding external teams you've been invited to, as into other organizations, yes, your customers, is it possible to set up email alerts for messages to your user or the channels you have guest invite to? It seems I only get such email alerts from teams internally from our own organization. Yeah, the customer would have to turn that on. So they would have to say, yes, within that, allow people to do that, because that is a setting within Teams itself that you can go into on your own side that says, hey, if I haven't gotten an email in a while, how does that get forwarded? So when you go into your own settings, you can do that under notifications, but somebody has to turn that on. So you can see here, sorry, inside my settings, I can do missed activity emails, and I can pick and choose how long that happens, but they would have to turn that on. So that's the first thing I would do is when you're logged into that, go ahead and see if you have access to that. And if so, turn that on. That can be done through a group policy, but it has to be done by the admin. Or you can see if you have access to that, you can turn that on, and I have mine go off once an hour. So that does allow me to do it, but that's probably the best way to do that. So but it's good feedback and good to see that folks are using that. And I'll certainly post that if you feel there's a better way that that could be done. I'm happy to pass that on, or I encourage you to go out to User Voice and post it there, because I know our engineering team every quarter goes in there, takes a look at any suggestion that has over 1,000 suggestions, and will then mark it's something we're doing, we're thinking about it, we're looking at it, etc. Within the new update policy, how long does it take to be active and require a specific build of Teams? It depends, first of all, what ring you're in. If you have set up part of a tenant or group of users as part of first release, you will get things probably anywhere from 30 to 90 days before it becomes available. If you go into Insider, you are guaranteed to get it 60 to 90 days before it will hit your users, before it hits current. So that's the first thing. And once you hit update policy, it depends. It could take anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours, depending on your admin level, how often DNS is being updated, users in various countries and locations. There's a bunch of variables, but it should not take longer than about 30 minutes in general. And you can force that to happen by doing a DNS update, which I encourage you to do. The preview function, yes. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, or if I didn't answer it correctly, feel free to send that back. How to manage who can create teams? Are we only looking at selected users that will be able to create teams in an O365 group? Yes, when you're looking at users, you are choosing which users can set up teams. So you can go through and you can say, you know, as I take a look at that, you know, who can manage teams. I can go ahead and I can put that through, which is manage or create. So I can do it by org, and then inside that org, I have the ability to say who are members and owners. Owners are people who have created that group and who can manage that group. Members are people who are part of it. This can also be done by channels. And I can also pick within settings, you know, they can add or edit existing ones, and then I can also do that as well. Will the activity feed be deletable for users? Only if you allow them to do that. So that is something where you can pick as part of those policies where they can do chat, but the activity feed, I don't believe we allow people to delete. They can mute it, but not delete it, is my understanding. But I would have to go back and check on that. So if you want to ping me on Twitter, I'm happy to go back and double check that. And that's at Stephen L. Rose for that question. And these are great questions, so I want to thank everybody. This is great. If I've not answered your question, or I've not answered your question fully or to your liking, let me know. I'm happy to, you know, continue. It's a little harder to do it via chat than folks just raising their hand in the room and asking. So, all right, we got about 2 minutes left before I have to turn it back over. So hopefully this answers a lot of questions for you. This talks about how to expect. The Insider is great. They can delete their own posts, yes, but not the activity feed itself. That's absolutely correct. You can always delete your own posts, and it will say deleted, but you cannot delete the activity feed, and that I do understand, yes. All right. All right. Without any questions, I'm going to turn it back to Shane. I'm still going to hang out for another 10 minutes in case anybody else does have another question. Hopefully we've answered questions. Hopefully we've talked about what you can expect in the next few months. Oh, Teams Insider program. You can go how to join the Microsoft Teams. It's no longer the developer preview. I will find it and I will post it. Why am I not seeing it? Teams Insider, Microsoft Teams Insider. Oh, here we go. Yep. Insider.microsoft.com. If you go there, you can see all of the different programs, and we now have one for Teams. So if you go here, you'll see it pop up. We also have all the rest, like our Edge, our Office Insiders, Windows Insiders, Visual Studio Preview at insider.office.com. And when you go inside of Office, you'll see Office Insider, which now Teams is a part of. And there's also some separate information that you can get on just the Teams Insider if you're looking for that as well within our TechNet community that you can take a look at, and how to go ahead and how to do that. So there's a lot of stuff in here as well. And I'll find that actual link and I'll repost it up. I did put it up in Twitter about a week or so ago. So I will redo that as well.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, super. We'll just leave the question line open here for anybody else with a question. We have a few people that have just commented in saying they missed the start, they missed a few minutes at the beginning. This session is being recorded and it will be added to the ESPC Resource Center after the webinar, and I will be sending out the link to everyone. So anyone that needs to get access to the start of this, it will be coming later.
Awesome.
And we have loads of people just writing in saying, thank you, great presentation, really great presentation, thanks a million, absolutely super, great. So Stephen,
awesome.
I think there's a lot of kudos and love out there for you at the moment. So
I appreciate it. And I wish I could be there. I enjoyed meeting so many of you when I was in Ireland a few years ago, and it was an awesome experience. And once we do this again in person, whether it's in Ireland or Copenhagen or wherever it's at, please invite me. I am always happy to come out and sit around, share a few pints, and answer questions and geek out over stuff, or talk about music and the basses behind me, or whatever it is that you want. Hey, and also make sure to check out my webinar series. I think you'll really enjoy that as well, that I was talking about, the ak.ms Teams-remote work. Our Jeff Teeper interview was absolutely tremendous. We did a whole thing on with Kushal on that new Teams Insider. We did one on low-code, no-code apps and Power Platform. We did a security Ask Me Anything with Paula and Chris Jackson. We did an Ignite wrap-up with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. We've had some pre-show stuff. We did some great team security, back to school with Jethro Seegers talking about EDU, and some really cool customers that came on to talk about what they're doing. And we also do some unboxing. So just for fun, if you're trying to check out some of the latest gear, we did like the new version of the Brio 4K webcam, the Zone wireless headset, the Acer Concept D, Surface Duo, the new Jabra 700 with the Teams button on it, and the Jabra Evolve with the Teams button. So make sure to check all that out. There's some cool stuff that my team is super proud of that we've done that I think that you will enjoy. And that URL once again is aka.ms/teams-hybrid work or remote work. Either one works.
Super. Stephen, with that, we might leave it at that for today, if that's okay with you. We don't have any more questions coming in, so I'm happy to leave it there if that's okay with you.
I think that's a great place to end.
As they say in comedy, if it's going good, get off quick.
Yes.
Oh, no, sorry. If it's going bad, get off quick. If it's going good, get off quicker. That's
quicker. Yes, exactly. I agree 100%. Perfect. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great evening. Thanks for inviting me. I'm going to get my day started, and we'll talk very soon. Take care.
Thank you, Stephen. Super. Right. Okay, everybody. That is it for today's webinar. Just a quick big thank you to Stephen Rose again from Microsoft United States on that. This is the end of today's webinar. Please check out the Resource Center where this webinar and all other episodes and all upcoming Teams Week webinars will be added. This is the end of the webinar for today. Thank you for joining us. Take care and goodbye.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your help.